Listen, dear, I realize that you've been hurt deeply because I've been there. But regardless to who, what, why, when, and where, we're all precious in His sight. And a rose is still and always will be a rose.
It's your girl Irose from the Concrete. Welcome to another episode of the Relapse and Recovery Chronicles. In today's episode, I'm going to be doing a video basically talking about a topic that I brought up maybe about a week ago. So I'm a little late with this one. It's the 5 reasons why you shouldn't be in a relationship at the very beginning of your recovery. Now, what I want to say about this thing is, when I posted this, I basically posted, give me one reason why you think that it's a good idea or a bad idea to enter into a relationship at the beginning of your recovery, at the very fresh start of it, and I got a bunch of reasons about why not, and very few reasons about why so. And my thing is, I am in a relationship, but I've also done recovery a few times over. So coming into this time, I kind of knew who I was, what it was I wanted, and it's my child's father, so it's just like a given. So I guess that makes it to where you have to ask yourself, is it okay to get into a brand new relationship when you first get into recovery versus you already being in a relationship? Well, my thing is this, and this is just for me, and then I'm going to read off my 5 reasons why, which are in no particular order. For me, when you know yourself and you know what it is that you're looking for, I feel like if you want to add on to what you got going on as far as dating is concerned and being in a relationship, you've already previously been in the relationship with this person has supported you all throughout your addiction and all throughout your recovery, I think that's fine. I think that that's a given. But when you're going into a brand new relationship and you're fresh in your recovery, you're really getting ready to go on a journey that deals with self to a whole nother degree. And when I mean deal with self, I mean you're basically going through the journey of healing. You're getting ready to heal, and you're healing from past wounds that were inflicted by old relationships, and you don't want to bring your old wounds into a new relationship. Plus, what I've learned is when you go through your recovery and you're actually doing the work, you change. And when you change, what you like changes. And you don't want to bring nobody on the journey of learning that you don't even like them, because you are a new you and you don't like them. You learn that you don't like them, and so now they're hurt that they've stood by you, so they feel like all this time, and just to find out you don't want them no more. So yeah, I do feel like my personal opinion is for you to wait. Just wait. Don't get into a relationship right off the bat, because at the end of the day, you're going to change. You're going to change. Your ideals are going to change. Your belief system will change if you're doing the work. Those things will change. And when those things change, what you think you need, what you think you want in a person and in life will change. And you want to give yourself the opportunity to change without all the extra added stress and the pressures of trying to please and complete another person who is on their own separate journey from you, and it may have nothing to do with recovery. Y'all two are maybe fighting 2 very different battles. And that leads me into the issue of dating another addict fresh in recovery. All these old 13 steppers and these people that think that it's okay to get into a relationship while you're in rehab with another sick person. You sick and they sick. So now y'all got a sick ass relationship. If they relapse, you're gonna relapse. If they do something to hurt you and you haven't built the proper foundation in order to maintain stability in your recovery, you're going to relapse. And I want people to understand that addiction is an emotional disease. It's an emotional issue. It's also it's very spiritual in nature also. And if you don't have those things in alignment, think about what you're drawing to you when it comes to actually being in a relationship. Is that really what you want? Somebody that's sick and that's dependent on you, and you're dependent on them, and there is no you outside of them, and you haven't created yourself so that you know what you're willing to put up with and what you're not willing to put up with. You really want to go through that? Relationships are stressful, especially when you haven't figured out what the real reason for relationships are. Yeah. Self-sacrifice ain't it. That ain't what we doing in relationships. I don't think that that's what the goal is when you decide to come into union with somebody. So here I have a list of 5 reasons why. And like I told you, they're not in any particular order. What I'm getting ready to do though is I have to go fill out some paperwork and stuff, and so I'm gonna come back and I'll be right back to go through these lists of 5 reasons why. And like I said again and again, it's in no particular order. These are just some of the reasons that I saw people comment under the post that I wrote when I asked the question, and I felt like there were some good points, there was some good information, and I feel like I really want to get that out to everybody that's going through recovery as far as relationships are concerned, because that's a big thing. Oh baby, let me fix this little curl. This little curl it refused to stay in place. It's a big deal. It's a big deal because nobody wants to be fucking alone. Nobody wants to go through recovery alone. Nobody wants to go through life alone. Everybody wants to be in a relationship. It's just the ideal thing. It's just like, get married, have kids. Have kids, get married. It's one of those two. You want to do one of those. You want to do that. Nobody wants to live their life alone. Even if they say they do, they really don't. They have just succumbed to the idea that they may not ever find that one person that'll want them back. Yeah. So, like I said, I got some paperwork to go fill out. I got a new job, and I'll be right back.
When will I learn enough about relationships to be able to have them go smoothly? Is there a way to be happy in relationships? Must they be constantly challenging?
You have nothing to learn about relationships. You have only to demonstrate what you already know. There is a way to be happy in relationships, and that is to use relationships for their intended purpose, not the purpose you have designed. Relationships are constantly challenging, constantly calling you to create, express, and experience higher and higher aspects of yourself, grander and grander visions of yourself, ever more magnificent versions of yourself. Nowhere can you do this more immediately, impactfully, and immaculately than in relationships. In fact, without relationships, you cannot do it at all. It is only through your relationship with other people, places, and events that you can even exist as a knowable quantity, as an identifiable something in the universe. Remember, absent everything else, you are not. You only are what you are relative to another thing that is not. That is how it is in the world of the relative, as opposed to the world of the absolute, where I reside. Once you clearly understand this, once you deeply grasp it, then you intuitively bless each and every experience, all human encounter, and especially personal human relationships, for you see them as constructive in the highest sense. You see that they can be used, must be used, are being used, whether you want them to be or not, to construct who you really are. That construction can be a magnificent creation of your own conscious design, or a strictly happenstance configuration. You can choose to be a person who has resulted simply from what has happened, or from what you've chosen to be and do about what has happened. It is in the latter form that creation of self becomes conscious. It is in the second experience that self becomes realized. Bless, therefore, every relationship and hold each as special and formative of who you are and now choose to be. Now, your inquiry has to do with individual human relationships of the romantic sort, and I understand that. So let me address myself specifically and at length to human love relationships, these things which continue to give you such trouble. When human love relationships fail, relationships never truly fail except in the strictly human sense that they did not produce what you want. They fail because they were entered into for the wrong reason. Wrong, of course, is a relative term, meaning something measured against that which is right, whatever that is. It'd be more accurate in your own language to say relationships fail, change, most often when they are entered into for reasons not wholly beneficial or conducive to their survival. Most people enter into relationships with an eye toward what they can get out of them, rather than what they can put into them. The purpose of a relationship is to decide what part of yourself you'd like to see show up, not what part of another you can capture and hold. There can be only one purpose for relationships, and for all of life, to be and to decide who you really are. It is very romantic to say that you were nothing until that special other came along, but it's not true. Worse, it puts an incredible pressure on the other to be all sorts of things he or she is not. Not wanting to let you down, they try very hard to be and do these things until they cannot anymore. They can no longer complete your picture of them. They can no longer fill the roles to which they have been assigned. Resentment builds, anger follows. Finally, in order to save themselves and the relationship, these special others begin to reclaim their real selves, acting more in accordance with who they really are. It is about this time that you say they've really changed. It's very romantic to say that now that your special other has entered your life, you feel complete. Yet the purpose of relationship is not to have another who might complete you, but to have another with whom you might share your completeness. Here is the paradox of all human relationships. You have no need for a particular other in order for you to experience fully who you are, and without another, you're nothing. This is both the mystery and the wonder, the frustration and the joy of the human experience. It requires deep understanding and total willingness to live within this paradox in a way which makes sense. I observe that very few people do. Most of you enter your relationship-forming years ripe with anticipation, full of sexual energy, a wide-open heart, and a joyful, if eager, soul. Somewhere between 40 and 60, and for most it is sooner rather than later, you've given up on your grandest dream, set aside your highest hope, and settled for your lowest expectation, or nothing at all. The problem is so basic, so simple, and yet so tragically misunderstood. Your grandest dream, your highest idea, and your fondest hope has had to do with your beloved other rather than your beloved self. The test of your relationships has had to do with how well the other lived up to your ideas and how well you saw yourself living up to his or hers. Yet the only true test has to do with how well you live up to yours. Relationships are sacred because they provide life's grandest opportunity, indeed, its only opportunity, to create and produce the experience of your highest conceptualization of self. Relationships fail when you see them as life's grandest opportunity to create and produce the experience of your highest conceptualization of another. Let each person in relationship worry about self. What self is being, doing, and having? What self is wanting, asking, giving? What self is seeking, creating, experiencing? And all relationships would magnificently serve their purpose and their participants. Let each person in relationship worry not about the other, but only about self. This seems a strange teaching, for you've been told that in the highest form of relationship, one worries only about the other. Yet I tell you this, your focus upon the other, your obsession with the other, is what causes relationships to fail. What is the other being? What is the other doing? What is the other having? What is the other saying, wanting, demanding? What is the other thinking, expecting, planning? The Master understands that it doesn't matter what the other is being, doing, having, saying, wanting, demanding. It doesn't matter what the other is thinking, expecting, planning. It only matters what you are being in relationship to that. The most loving person is the person who is self-centered.
That is a radical teaching.
Not if you look at it carefully. If you cannot love yourself, you cannot love another. Many people make the mistake of seeking love of self through love of another. Of course, they don't realize they are doing this. It's not a conscious effort. It's what's going on in the mind, deep in the mind, in what you call the subconscious. They think, if I can just love others, they will love me, then I will be lovable, and I can love me. The reverse of this is that so many people hate themselves because they feel there is not another who loves them. This is a sickness. It's when people are truly lovesick, because the truth is, other people do love them, but it doesn't matter. No matter how many people profess their love for them, it's not enough. First, they don't believe you. They think you are trying to manipulate them, trying to get something. How could you love them for who they truly are? No, there must be some mistake. You must want something. Now, what do you want? They sit around trying to figure out how anyone could actually love them, so they don't believe you and embark on a campaign to make you prove it. You have to prove that you love them. To do this, they may ask you to start altering your behavior. Second, if they finally come to a place where they can believe you love them, they begin at once to worry about how long they can keep your love. So in order to hold on to your love, they start altering their behavior. Thus, two people literally lose themselves in a relationship. They get into the relationship hoping to find themselves, and they lose themselves instead. This losing of the self in a relationship is what causes most of the bitterness in such couplings. Two people join together in a partnership, hoping that the whole will be greater than the sum of the parts, only to find that it's less. They feel less than when they were single, less capable, less able, less exciting, less attractive, less joyful, less content. This is because they are less. They've given up most of who they are in order to be and to stay in their relationship. Relationships were never meant to be this way, yet this is how they are experienced by more people than you could ever know.
Why?
It's because people have lost touch with, if they ever were in touch with, the purpose of relationships. When you lose sight of each other as sacred souls on a sacred journey, then you cannot see the purpose, the reason behind all relationships. The soul has come to the body, and the body to life, for the purpose of evolution. You are evolving, you are becoming, and you are using your relationship with everything to decide what you are becoming. This is the job you came here to do. This is the joy of creating self, of knowing self, of becoming consciously what you wish to be. It is what is meant by being self-conscious. You have brought yourself to the relative world so that you might have the tools with which to know and experience who you really are. Who you are is who you create yourself to be in relationship to all the rest of it. Your personal relationships are the most important elements in this process. Your personal relationships are therefore holy ground. They have virtually nothing to do with the other, yet because they involve another, they have everything to do with the other. This is the divine dichotomy. This is the closed circle. So it is not such a radical teaching to say, blessed are the self-centered, for they shall know God. It might not be a bad goal in your life to know the highest part of yourself and to stay centered in that. Your first relationship, therefore, must be with yourself. You must first learn to honor and cherish and love yourself. You must first see yourself as worthy before you can see another as worthy.
Now, to continue where I left off at for these 5 reasons you probably shouldn't get into a relationship fresh in your recovery. Maybe your first 2 years, maybe a year. At least give yourself a year. Side note, before I start, if you are already in I have a separate video for that, because that's a whole nother ball game. That's a whole nother ball game. But if you single, you are making that change and you're becoming abstinent to drugs. Oh Lord, what's all this stuff in the middle of my forehead? You're abstinent to drugs, you're in your first year of recovery, you're doing your 12 steps, not 13 steps, but your 12 steps. These are the 5 reasons. 1, you need you more than anybody else could ever need you. Let me say that again. You need you more than anybody else needs you. At this point in time, you're trying to build a solid relationship with yourself, and you're trying to build a support system. So the last thing you need is to be incorporating romantic relationships in the scheme of that, because you're still trying to figure out how to love yourself. You're still trying to figure out what love for you looks like, what your happiness looks like. So you can't be trying to make someone else happy and you have yet to figure out what makes you happy enough to not do drugs. So you need you more than anybody else needs you. That go for your children too, to a certain extent. Unless you're sober, you can't fully be there for them either. And that leads me into 2. I have a piece of paper here. Learn who you are outside of your old habits. Because let me tell you something. What's going to end up happening is you're going to change. Yeah. Once you start really getting to know yourself and you get into doing new things and meeting new people, there are going to be new you. There's going to be a new you. There's going to be a new you. And the new you is not going to like the old stuff. Old people, old places, old things. You're not going to like what you used to like. That goes for a person too. I think that's going to go on the second video as to why you probably shouldn't drag somebody through recovery with you, because you'll turn around and be looking at that person like, I don't even like you no more. But you want to give yourself time to adjust and to adapt to your new liking system. Your picker may have been broken, and you may have been picking all the wrong relationships for all the wrong reasons because your picker was broken and you were on drugs. Once you give yourself time to recover your emotional, mental, spiritual well-being, you give yourself time to like new things, new people, things that are better for you. And what that look like changes. Give yourself some time to let things change for the better for you, especially when it comes to relationships and what you think a relationship should be and what you think a relationship is. Which leads me into 3. When relationships are entered into for the wrong reasons. Now let me read this right. Wrong meaning anything outside of growing and helping each other grow, accomplish, and achieve, there will be stressful and toxic things going on. And that could lead to relapse. Simple as that. That's why, oh Lord, what is all that? Y'all, I've been at work all day. As y'all can see, the whole shirt changed. the whole shirt changed because I had got busy and just couldn't finish the video that day. But it's gonna lead, let me go back to it's gonna lead to stressful and toxic people. It's gonna be a stressful and toxic situation, which could lead to relapse. And that's the last thing you need. You know, when you're trying to figure out what you can do to make somebody else happy and you're not really happy and you're people pleasing in order to make yourself happy, that is a setup for failure. You understand? Codependency ain't nothing but another it's another habit. That ain't nothing but another drug. You know, it's basically trading addictions. Looking for outside validation. That time within that year, what you're doing is you're learning how to validate yourself with things outside of other people and other people's opinions and ideas of you. It's gonna be a struggle, but you're learning how to do that, and you got to give yourself time in order to learn how to do that. If you don't give yourself no time to learn how to do that, you're going to keep doing the same things and getting the same results in relationships and all that. Then you got to start looking at why you feel like you need to be in a relationship. You're afraid to be alone with you. What's the problem? What is it that's bothering you so much that you can't be by yourself for a while? And why you want to put that shit off on somebody else? If you don't want to be with you, why you trying to put that off on somebody else like they want to be with you? I mean, I'm just saying, this is how I feel about it. I had to look at it the same way. Toya, I kind of get on my own nerves. I don't know how I expect somebody else to deal with me, and I can't deal with me. I'm having issues dealing with myself. Why would I want someone else to try to put up with me? You understand? It's just like you see yourself coming a mile away and you know you don't mean nobody no good, but you still gonna go put yourself in that position where you don't mean nobody no good and they don't mean you no good, because opposites don't attract. You attract what you are. Now, which leads me into 4. Give yourself time to heal. All the trauma and the messed up belief systems. Give yourself time to create new belief systems. Give yourself time to relinquish the trauma that you've been through. Give yourself time to grow, you know, which goes back to 1. You need you more than anybody else needs you. Then it goes back to 2. You're learning who you are outside of all your old habits and you're going to change. That leads back to 3. You're not entering in relationships trying to find outside validation because you're dealing with your trauma properly. And believe you me, if you've been on drugs, baby, and been out there in the streets, you got some trauma. You got PTSD. Oh, you got some issues. And if you've been on drugs long enough, you probably got a dual diagnosis thing going on and need some mental help too. Therapy, psychiatry. You know, therapy and psychiatry are 2 different things, right? Look it up. Now, this leads me to number 5. If nothing changes, nothing changes. If every time you go into recovery, you find yourself in a relationship while you in rehab or right after you get out of rehab, you find yourself jumping around dating and feeling uncomfortable in these situations, but you're trying to force them because you want to feel loved, change that. This recovery, do the opposite of everything that you've ever done in all your other recoveries, because somewhere down the line there was a relapse. You got to think about why the relapse happened. And when you think about why the relapse happened, recount everything that you did step by step, and don't do that shit. Do the opposite of that shit. And if getting into relationships right out of rehab straight into recovery is your thing, don't let that be your thing, and see where you get. See what happens. Do something new. If nothing changes, nothing changes. All right, y'all. This has been the Relapse and Recovery Chronicles. I'm your girl, Irose from the Concrete. And I just want to say this. I am going to come with a video about people who are already in relationships and doing recovery, or fresh in recovery, because that's like a different ring. That's kind of the situation I'm in right now. And I have a few thoughts about it, good thoughts and bad thoughts, but I'm gonna come and dissect that in probably like 3 or 4 different perspectives, because there are about 3 or 4 different perspectives you can look at. There are a lot of pros and there are a lot of cons, but for me, the pros outweigh the cons. First of all, though, I really know myself. Like, I've already done the work. Now I'm redoing the work. So me getting into this relationship was more of a it's not a convenience thing. It's not me looking for outside validation. It was just already there. This was somebody who basically loved me through the storm. And I can appreciate somebody loving me at my worst. Somebody that deserves to see me at my best. Somebody that's not toxic. Somebody that is the prototype of who I think a man, or what I think a man should be. You know, seeing as where I'm going in life. So with that said, we'll come and do a whole nother video. We'll do another video on that, so we can get some perspective on that too. And if you have any comments, suggestions, anything you want to say, I had somebody tell me something about the pages in the AA book. I'm saying a lot. There was some stuff they said something about what the AA book said, and they gave me page numbers, but I don't remember what the page numbers were. So if you could drop down in the comments and give me the page numbers, that would be awesome. So yeah, like I said, this is the Relapse and Recovery Chronicles. I just came through to give you the 5 reasons why you probably shouldn't be in a relationship your first 2 years of recovery, at least your first year, you know. So peace.